Mike Winkler here, and I wanted to take a few minutes and I wanted to talk about the pre-built integrations, the things in the App Store inside Qradar. A lot of the times when you start integrating apps and you start talking to more than one vendor, it can turn into hundreds of hours, great big piles of expenses, and things that don't exactly work the way you want them to. And that is not exactly what we're doing here. What we do, and what's the whole thought of the App Store, is we want these integrations to be pre-built by the vendors. We want them to be applications, not consulting, right? So the installation and configuration is under an hour almost all the time. I can do user behavioral analysis in 10 minutes and pretty normally do. So you may need to own the apps in the back end of it, right? If you want a Palo Alto app in your Qradar, you have to own the Palo Alto to make it work, this kind of thing. But the apps themselves are no additional cost. And it struck me that this is kind of a key ring to keep all of our keys on. You see the URL on the screen. This is the location of where all of those apps are kept, and it's free for anyone to go look at. Or you can just Google X-Force Exchange. It's going to take you over there. Establishing a couple of prereqs here, a couple of concepts. That everything requires at least Qradar 726. At the time of this recording, it's January in 2017, and there's a few things that do require 728, and I believe one that requires 727. So you need to be at least 726 and be mindful of that when you're pulling down the apps. Okay, and each application may create a nested app of its own, and we'll take a look at those and log sources and safe searches and all of these good things. It may be worthy of note to you that prior to the current versions of Qradar, we used to charge for log sources, which we no longer do. So an app creating a log source won't get you into license trouble or anything like that. First thing I'd like to talk about is Palo Alto, okay? Big popular firewall. So there is an application-specific dashboard inside Qradar that is giving you Palo Alto data. So these things like the MD5 hashes or some specific user data, these fun things that don't necessarily display by default using standard syslog, we receive from the Palo Alto, we interpret it properly, and we give you graphics that are specifically easy to use. And beyond the graphics, right, because dashboards are nice, but they're definitely not the whole deal, it creates saved searches and it creates specific reports that you can look at your Palo Alto data. So you can see what's going on in your Pano, so you can see what's going on with your Wildfire. At the same time, you can be looking at what's going on with your Active Directory, right? So it gives you more value of the data that your Palo Alto is already sending. And I'm trying to hit a couple of different kinds of apps here, although I'm definitely not hitting the entire range of it. Carbon Black is endpoint protection, right? It's both forensics and it does kind of a zero-day blocking thing, right? So I have a host forensics specific dashboard, okay, that pops up, and you see what goes with the dashboard I took here is an offense screen that shows it how it brings up a Carbon Black blocking screen. So I can do the forensic, I can do the blocking of a host or a specific executable by the hash, right, and do this from inside Qradar. So it's more than just dashboards, it's full two-way controls. Digital Guardian. Digital Guardian is a DLP company, and actually a pretty good one, that I have specific dashboards to DLP function that this builds inside Qradar. Now, a lot of these things do create their own dashboards, but I don't want you to think that it's limited to that. I have APT, Advanced Persistent Threat Tracking, that goes on inside the application. So if I see something coming across the net flows in Qradar or something that comes across my proxy, that is going to add to this, and I'm using the Digital Guardian intelligence. So I'm getting APT tracking, not just from the Digital Guardian level, but in Qradar as well. Snare. Snare is a kind of a log management tool, right? It's like our own WinCollect, but turned up a heck of a lot higher. So that what it does is I have configuration controls as well as the reporting and dashboards for some very advanced log collecting and filtering. So if you have an Active Directory server and you only want to pull 11 of the 80 possible security events, fine. Or if you want to get something like an IIS server and you want to pull a subset of logs, Snare is particularly good at this so that we can configure this and we can get reports on the very specifically tailored logging we're pulling from Snare inside Qradar so that you have kind of the best value for your data. BigFix. BigFix is an internal IBM product, and it was one of the first big glory boy integrations. It's patch management using something called Fixlets with dashboards inside Qradar. And once again, not just dashboards, I can go through and if I see an offense occurring, oh, by the way, someone is vulnerable to a specific Adobe version, and then I see because of that bug, there's something coming across a firewall that will cause a problem. This causes an offense. I can right-click inside the offense and send a fixlet from BigFix, right? So that I can determine via any method you like what the problem's going to be, including a host audit by BigFix itself, and then I can push patches from inside the Qradar window. Okay, and here's where I start to get snazzy a little bit. BigFix and Carbon Black talk to each other. So I can use Carbon Black's endpoint forensics, and I can determine that there is a problem with a version of QuickTime or some Microsoft patch that didn't land properly. And I can use BigFix to push a patch or Carbon Black to block an executable, and the three go back and forth multi-directionally, making the whole product more intelligent, right? So this isn't just cool new reports and cool new dashboards written into Qradar, where it is that, but it's a lot of ways that you can make these products talk to each other intelligently and make each other better. So I guess what we're going for here is every application makes the other one smarter, all well and good. It gives you a single point of control for security analytics. We used to joke about Yak, yet another console, and everybody wants to be the single point of management. But we allow every one of these vendors to go through and write their own applications, so that I'm not saying don't look at your trend. I'm saying trend is already feeding data over here. I'm saying resilient. I'm saying Risk IQ, Exabeam, and any of dozens of others are deciding what data that they think will be the most helpful. Can you still go over to your ScienceSoft console? Of course you can. But you can also see everything they think you're going to need in the Qradar right now. And beyond this, right, I have the whole suite of IBM security products as well, right? XGS and AppScan and Moz 360 that have their own integrations, some of which are in the App Store, most of which, but some of which are a little more under the covers, so that when you're looking at these functions like Guardium, I can do a block of a database, an improper database execution from inside Qradar and report back on it. So what we're doing here is, SIM has always been the center of the ecosystem, and this is all well and good. And SIM has always been the center of IBM's security strategy, right? But the security intelligence we've evolved into, I have all of these wonderful external products and all of these really nice internal products. We're writing the data in such a way that you can get all of the value, internal and external, from inside a single application. Now, these are agile developed, so I've sometimes seen in 3 months, 3 versions pop up of something as we add new features to it. But I'm Mike Winkler, and this has been a view of the pre-built apps in our App Store. Thanks.